Good evening, Primetime Partiers. It's Primetime Party Time. Welcome back to our hour of all things media and entertainment, live on the air at 9 p.m. at ptptshow.com and on your time, wherever you stream podcasts. Tonight, we are going to go into animated Disney movies turned TV shows. With the recent release of Monsters at Work, we reflect on previous iterations on this type of progression, like Emperor's New School, Lilo and Stitch, and more. Let's see how these TV adaptations have shifted and remained the same from the 2000s to now, since it's been a minute since we've gotten an animated film turned TV show outside of those adorable Pixar shorts.
That's true. A lot of Pixar shorts on Disney Plus these days, huh?
Oh, yeah.
But now we have our first, maybe first. I'm not sure if it's the first. But Monsters at Work, based off a Pixar film, is actually Disney animation, so fits into the rest of today's topic. Actually, better than it might otherwise. It's not just you and I here tonight, Tracy. We had some interesting circumstances that have led to an actual primetime party time on the air tonight.
Whoop, whoop.
We have with us tonight guest starring. We have Kyle here from last week's
everyone.
Real primetime folk blues. I don't. What
Thanks
do
for
you call
having me
them?
back.
Of
Real
course, thanks for
Folk
being here.
Blues Part 2. Yeah, he liked it so nice, he's gonna come on an episode twice.
As well as primetime regulars BMAC and JustTheFax. Hey, Brandon. Hey, Wendy.
Hello.
Thanks for being on. And pairing with us as we switch platforms for a night.
Yes. Yes, a testament to everyone in the chat. You too can be on the show.
Again, if you find the link.
Could be on the show.
Yeah.
Yes, if you can find this link. Yeah, we've had some technical difficulty tonight, so there's a very large probability you are listening to this on your streaming platforms after we've been live on the air, as we've been having some streaming malfunctions tonight. But if not, we are live on Google Meet. So you can catch us there this one time and one time only, we hope. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining us. This will be a fun conversation since we have a lot more voices in the room. And on that note, toast and roast time. Daniel, what's your toast and roast for this week?
Okay. Well, I'll start with a roast because the roast was obviously going to be technical issues that caused this. But honestly, I'm looking around. I'm looking at this virtual party right now, and also had like 1/5 not virtual party, 1/4 not virtual party, I guess. And I'm not going to roast that. This could be interesting. But yeah. I will say I have a toast this week that cannot be skipped, and that it is our amazing artist Fen's birthday. Today, actually, as the recording this episode. So happy birthday, Fen.
Happy birthday, Ben.
Yeah, she is our amazing artist. She's done our primetime characters. She's done various other characters. Like we say in every credits, you can find her at FenLatte on Instagram. Does really fun art. Has a couple of original characters. All sorts of cool stuff. And yeah, we're super happy that she does our visual portion of the show. So a big toast to Fen's birthday. All right, how do we want to do the rest of these? Anybody got toasts and roasts tonight? Casually, not casually? Anybody feeling good about anything? Feeling bad about anything?
Go
into it, Kyle.
All right, so toast. I'm gonna toast snorkeling. So Brandon's on, and our other friend Spencer that we hang out with from time to time have picked up snorkeling in preparation for a trip to Catalina we have a little later this month. So I don't know, it's just been real nice. Starting to get the hang of it. Picked up some stuff yesterday. Went out to Laguna Beach. It was cool. You see like the kelp forest and like the nice little orange fish and stuff. So definitely a toast there.
Garibaldi. Did you go to that one place that we snorkeled at like eons
ago?
Oh,
no, that was Treasure Island, I think. No, we went to Crescent Bay. Which is like the first, pretty much like one of the first northern beaches in Laguna, so it's kind of easy to get to from our neck of Orange County.
Nice. Yeah, I was in the water on Sunday, and it was not warm, which was the reason I went. Like, it was 73-ish all of the other days, but it was 60.
Yeah.
But it was very clear.
Yeah, it wasn't great, but But
good
the views,
for seeing the fishies.
yeah, exactly. The views made it worth it. So, and then roasts to car maintenance. That is never a fun time. Yeah. So I got. So yeah, we're leaving on a road trip tomorrow. Daniel's giving me this look of like, "What do you mean car maintenance? We're taking your car." No, so we are good. It's just you get through like getting the tires inflated, making sure they're all balanced and rotated. You're getting your coolant filled up. You do your brake fluid exchange. You do your transmission fluid exchange. You get everything nice and set just for them to come over and be like, hey, so by the way, you have these fluids that are leaking that you weren't even aware about, So it's just some of those things. You get everything done, and then you just figure out there's a new problem you have to tackle later on. But that's just car ownership, right?
Yeah.
It is. There's always something.
There's always something.
Always something.
Yeah.
My dashboard melted once. It was recalled, so it was fine. But there's always something.
I also had a few recalled parts, and I was just like,
I don't know. Sorry.
so rude. I said I had a couple of recalled parts. It's so rude.
Oh yeah, it is.
It just feels
Just
rude.
get it right the first time, right? No, I don't know.
Like never make mistakes is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Never make mistakes. Never do anything. Yeah.
No, yeah. But they try to charge you for them until you say like, was there a recall? And is it under warranty? And then they're like, oh yeah, you're right. Because car maintenance places toss around like $1,500 as if it's like $5. So they'll be like, it'll be this much. Oh, actually, it'll be free. And you're like, this was a large discrepancy in these prices.
Mm-hmm.
I don't appreciate that. Do I look like I can afford that? I clearly don't. So yeah, I agree with you, Kyle. Always a roast to car maintenance.
Definitely.
Wendy, what is your toast or roast or one? You don't have to do both.
Well, you were mentioning earlier about working with coworkers that live across the country.
Oh,
so for roast, working remotely on East Coast time really sucks. It's pretty exhausting, and everybody's 3 hours ahead. And so when I technically need to eat lunch, it's technically breakfast time. And yeah, there are just moments where you're just exhausted and noon hasn't even happened. But that's really happening. So.
No, it's not cool. And then they're like all like chill, like at the end of their day, like their energy is not yours. And they'll just like go at you and you'll be like, I could barely be here right now.
Yeah. Or people are like, oh, it's okay, don't worry. We won't set meetings too early. Let's meet at 10. I was like, well, that's 7 a.m. for me. So I'm waking up at 6:30. But that's cool. You're right. It's not so bad. So that would be a roast. And then a toast is I surprisingly really enjoyed Loki on Disney Plus.
Ooh.
And that is definitely a bit of a tie-in of movies becoming TV shows, which is getting to be all TV shows.
That's an interesting angle. But yeah, that's true. That does totally fall into that falls into what we're talking about. That's interesting.
Yeah. So it's a surprisingly good show, and I wasn't expecting it to be. So
it is a Disney show too.
We can dive more into that. We'll get into the convo. And Brandon, your toast or roast or both?
Toast is I went to Universal Studios, and Universal Studios is great. There's Harry Potter World, there's Jurassic Park, there's Simpsons World, there's the studio tours. But everyone needs to know I am gonna put my name on this claim. I love Waterworld. It is the best thing at Universal Studios by a country mile, and everyone should go.
You heard it here first.
Oh yeah, this show that's been around for coming up on 30 years is the best thing there, and seems to be, always will be.
Something.
Oh no, go ahead.
So, timely enough, Wendy and I went to the Waterworld show maybe a month or two ago. And I sat us down and had us watch Waterworld, the movie, first. It had always been my dream that I would go to Universal Studios while I lived a couple blocks from it, but I would force whoever would come with me to have to sit through all 3 hours of Waterworld the night before. I really appreciated the Waterworld. I can back up Brandon's claims. It's amazing. It's also, if you want to sit through the film, a sequel to the film.
This is intriguing. And I do like to just add on to that. Dreams come true.
They do. They do.
Yeah, the first time I went to Universal was 2 years ago, and that was the only time. So I haven't done a lot. But I do appreciate the studio tour because it was nice to figure out when I think we were watching WandaVision. You kind of started to pick up like that was filmed on the studio. In certain shows, you'd be like, oh, yeah, that's like the vintage town. Oh, yeah, that's this. Even though like most people look at it to be like, there's Jaws in the lake. So,
did you go to the Duff Brewery, Brandon?
I did the beer. I walked by the beer garden. It's like you have to wait 45 minutes in line for something. So time in the day is a bit limited, which actually leads me into my roast. We have to go over as a society, write it down on a tablet somewhere. Proper line etiquette.
Oh, here we go.
Okay, I'm sure everyone in the world has a bad line story.
No, they don't.
They
do in America.
They have to learn how to queue up. So here at Universal, this is just my personal story for today, but we were lining up for the Universal Studios tour, the tram tour. It's a long line. We were in that line for about an hour. It's serpentines in and out of shady and very sunny areas. Today it was 98 degrees. People were very much lightheaded.
Yes.
We got to a point in the line where we happened to be stuck in a sunny area, and then we look a couple serpentine lanes over, and someone stopped because they didn't want to go from the shaded area to the sunny area, and we allowed it for a good 15 minutes. We were like, yes, we all understand. We could stand in the sun a little bit longer, wait for this person to like get their bearings, and then go into the sunny area. This didn't happen. Eventually, I am a little bit more of a confrontational person. I had to but when you confront people, you gotta get people on your side first. Like people around you need to be on your side. So I said, hey, if I confront this person, you're all gonna back me up, right? And they're like, yeah. And me and my little band of revolutionaries leaned over the edge and were like, hey you, can you move up a little? It's a little warm. We just want to get in the shade. You've been standing in the shade for a while. Just let us move up a little. You have to come up forward. And they ignored us. They turned eye contact and looked away. Unacceptable.
You were dismissed.
I was, yes, as if I was not a person. And then at that point, everyone else saw this happen and we're like, hey, we caused a minor uproar. I was with my sister and my family, and then they said, like, no, don't confront them. Like, what do you mean don't confront them? We're hot. And then we raised our voices slightly. We did not yell. And they moved forward, and the people behind me got into the shade. 5 minutes later, someone behind us passed out and hit the floor.
So what you're saying?
Yes. Like, this is what you did.
Yes. I looked at her and said, and I didn't say it, but
this blood is on your hands.
Exactly. Look at what you did. You did this to us, nameless stranger at Universal Studios.
There's got to be a moral
One day
here.
more.
Yeah. Brandon just wrote an amazing scene of Curb Your Enthusiasm. Is what I got.
Really did.
What's the moral here?
This is between this and my parking in the driveway story. We're well on our way to like a dry sitcom. We do have too much more hot weather complaints. But yours sounds like a little bit like somewhat of a uprising.
Yeah, you got the people going.
Yeah, I like to cause my own problems and own solutions. Yes.
You at least you provide both. I mean, I guess like the interesting thing is when you go other countries, there's different line cultures. And like some cultures, like the line rules are strict. Like you're moving ahead. If you're uncomfortable, that's too bad because you're moving ahead. Some of them would just be like, if that person stays in the shade, they're telling us that they don't want to continue onwards. So we all move past them and we decide this as a group. And then other places would honestly more likely do what Brandon did and just directly go to them like, why aren't you moving? You are holding everyone back. You must move now. So it's interesting. As the melting pot of America, we don't have not picked many societal norms, but the line culture does seem to be up there as the society opens up.
So the only thing I just want to add in here, not to keep, not to add too much to this, but
Yeah.
I've never done this as a person, but as a person driving a car, I've definitely done a version of what Brandon confronted the person for.
So like someone was like stalled for too long?
No, I pulled up to, you guys ever pulled up to like a green light and there's like clearly a ton more space, like, between you and the light in the intersection, or like you and the car in front of you, but that space is in the sun versus the spot you are in is in the shade.
I have never had this thought.
Yeah.
No, you just have to have really bad luck. That's like only available during a certain specific time of day.
No, I know. It's scenario by scenario.
I know exactly what you're talking about, Kyle. I am with you. I know exactly what you're talking about. Please continue.
Yeah. So like, there's clearly more space in front of you, but you're like, but if I drive up there, I'm in the sun and it's going to be hot. So you just sit in the shade.
Listen, as someone who does not melt in the sun, I have not had this conundrum of avoiding the sun. But having many friends that do want to avoid the sun, I understand this. I have taken my friends to music festivals, be like, where are they? Oh, they're in the shade. Like, that's 10 feet away. Some people are shade searchers because they need to have shade to survive. And that's fair. I guess what we all really need are really large visors. Is what we need.
Where did you meet like a group of vampires to be friends with?
Melt in the sun. Is that? Can you go to the doctor and get like get a prescriction for that?
I'm talking about like the SPF 100 gang. Like everyone has those friends.
That's actually wow. That's actually pretty good. SPF 100 gang.
Yeah. Yes, my newfound nemesis. Yeah, my newfound nemesis was definitely a SPF 100 user.
SPF 100 user.
I mean,
I didn't think it was pertinent to the story to bring it up, but now that we've gone this way, I just thought, I have to bring it up. Yes.
It's okay. Listener of the show, Sean, I sometimes look at him and watch him burn in the sun and just be like, I must missed you more. It's like you're turning pink already from just like a drive.
I joke, but I'm not immune either. And have my own son's stories. Tracy, what's your toast? What's your roast tonight?
I know, we're moving it right along. My toast, I have many toasts. I went to even though the water was cold, I did go to Swami's. It was really nice. I did try this lemon poppy seed donut from Sidecar. I hadn't gone there in a really long time, and it was really, really good. It's like a very punchy lemon donut, and then it was glazed with lemon. So it was very lemon. You have to like lemon.
I definitely eyed that the last time I was there, so good on you.
Yeah, get it next time. And I put the rest of the ones we got in our freezer to just have like, for when, life hands you problems like we've had today. Be like, there's a donut in the freezer you can microwave. That did not mean to rhyme. I am also really enjoying the new Billie Eilish album. It's pretty fun. Amongst a lot of new music that honestly the past like 2 weeks. Never listened to Big Red Machine before, but it's a good time. A lot of different artists collaborating on them. And I used the pool at my condo for the first time. So that was fun. There's like nice. It's usually like full of children. And on this Saturday, there was no one there. So I was like,
Wow.
now is my time. Not that I'm anti-kids, but everyone knows you're at the pool. You have a preference of how much you want to be splashed or interacted with. So if you're feeling very antisocial, like you're like, I'm here to read and talk to no one. You need it. You need that
true.
18 and up pool
It's true.
situation. So yeah, those are my toasts. My roasts are mostly, like almost all of my technology betrayed me today. Rude. Like Teams was not nice to me. One of my other website content management systems just kept kicking me out. I was just like, should I just log out today? Is it just it's like I can't do anything.
Oh no, one of those days.
Yeah. And then I felt really bad. A colleague of mine was using like OneDrive and somebody else accidentally like deleted his whole work. Luckily, I had reviewed it. So I was like, I saved your copy because I have anxiety. You're welcome. So it was just a day of like, ooh, the tech stars are not aligned. That and I don't know. I'm gonna be real vague about this because I can't fully speak about it, and not in like a cool way. I just can't. But like when you feel like you have like something like lined up, like in the bag, and then you realize it's really just like an open call audition type situation, but it's for something really like it's for like not something cool. It's just like for something regular, and you're just like. Oh, I didn't want a poodle for this. No.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's like I gotta like perch up with all the other ones. Oh.
Yeah. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
No, I'm just, I don't know if it's flashbacks or if I'm trying to connect through the vagueness, but yeah, it's a tough one.
I will speak through metaphors on this one, and maybe I toast or roast about it later on a subsequent episode. But yeah, if you ever felt like something was unnecessarily more open to other people jumping on your bandwagon, I feel you guys. It happens. It's unfortunate. But yeah, that's how it goes. And those are some of the scenarios that, are covered in a lot of workplace shows like Monsters at Work and school opportunities. Whoever's new school, and there is no way I can wrap Lilo and Stitch into this unless
Not
we
at
really
all. We'll get there.
we really just can't. So on that note, let's take a little break and then get into Disney movies turned TV shows.
Is everybody here familiar with Disney Channel animated series that took place and continued on the stories of the hit movies that we all grew up with to love?
I'll say yes. Yeah, I have. Yes.
Whoa! I know a couple. The one that came to mind that I didn't realize that I knew was Buzz Lightyear of Star Command.
Oh yeah.
Fantastic. I recall watching that one.
Did anyone play that Buzz Lightyear like Astro Blasters game at Disneyland? Because I want to say they made that ride because of this show.
Right, because there were a bunch of characters and it fleshed out Zorg as a villain. I don't remember much about the show. It's one that I did not go back to and check up on for this episode in particular, though it is one that I am interested in because from what I remember, it was played as kind of like an old school 80s Saturday morning cartoon based around obviously the fact of toys. And I'd be interested if it played it straight or actually had fun with that concept. I don't know. But yeah, I remember it being fun.
They saw
it was a lot of fun.
And ABC. So it was on Disney One Saturday morning block.
Yeah,
I believe I watched it on like ABC Saturday morning cartoons because I know I didn't have cable, so that's the only way I could have watched it. but I also know it was a sequel to a direct-to-video cartoon about like the character of Buzz Lightyear, like as who he is based on, as what the toy was based on.
I like the origin story for Buzz Lightyear.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that's going into a lot of these shows take different structural takes. So some of them are prequels, some of them are sequels, some of them seem to just like pick up right where they left off, and some there's more time in between. So I think if we're looking at Emperor's New School, it pretty much picks up about right where they left off, and I'd say continuation is the best way to talk about this one because they pretty much have the exact same issue that's in the movie played out in different ways in each episode. It's just that he's going to school in order to become the emperor, and Yzma is out there with all of her potions accidentally turning him or others into different animals to try to get him to fail out of school so that she can eventually take over the throne. So those are a lot of the main premises are pretty much the same since he was turned into a llama for that whole movie up until he wasn't. And this one, it's definitely more aimed at kids. There are a few darker jokes that I caught on a little bit, so some of the writing is on that same field, though I think not as much as the movie. I think clearly when David Spade was not the Cusco voice, you just lose a lot of that pizzazz.
I found that too. Yeah, I found that to be true.
Yeah, I mean, the guy did a good job trying to match the tone because it's you know that it's not him, but it's not really starkly. It's not like when other shows have a new voice actor and you're just like, what is that? That sounds completely different.
That happens.
Yeah. Which, it definitely happens in Ink Dub of Sailor Moon all the time. So that is why I mention it. But yeah, and I'd say for a lot of these, I weirdly still knew all of the words to the theme song. So I'm like, okay, we watched these. What's interesting is most of them are only about 2 seasons. So I'm thinking they really did just kind of take a chance.
Just ride the long tail of that movie, or up until the maybe sequel. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I know, because most of these ended up getting sequels as well. So that's the interesting part. And then Lilo and Stitch is, kind of similar premise is as Stitch's Experiment 626, the series goes into seeing all the other 625 experiments. And there seems to be this like hamster dude who's like evil, who's working and to like try to get the experiments to use them for evil reasons. And then everyone else on the island is, trying to just kind of have the experience be lovable other creatures as well. And they're kind of doing that monster of the day type format.
Is that what
seems similar to Pokemon, but then not?
Yeah. So I actually have a question for everybody here, and I'm trying to figure this out. Mm-hmm. Lilo and Stitch to me felt like structurally similar to that there is a genre of cartoon that this falls under, and I'm not sure how to describe it. I'm not sure, like, Monster of the Week has been presented, and it's true because it's like Pokemon, but it's not. But I feel like it's more similar to shows like the Jackie Chan Adventures or even like a Transformers Armada, really, where it's not so much that there are these beings or objects that you want to, that like the heroes and the villains are both after every episode, and it's a different one, and by the end of it, one or the other ends up with whatever this episode's about and whatever that being or object is. In Pokemon, there's infinite Pokemon, right?
Yeah.
In these, there is only one of each. There's only one of that monster, right? And they go towards either side and make either side stronger. The same with Jackie Chan. There's only one talisman that one side gets by the end of the episode. What is that genre? Like, is that monster? Like, what is that genre? Where it seems like a very specific structure a lot of cartoons use.
It is a bit of like a MacGuffin of the week.
Okay.
Yeah, because Shaolin, I'm thinking about a lot of shows like that. Like Shaolin Showdown was the same way.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point. We'll have to go into this kind of subgenre
Yeah, no, I
of
like the
Saturday
word-
morning
yeah.
and other cartoons that are kind of going through the same format. Because, and I would say like the Lilo and Stitch series is pretty light. Like they still kind of have that, there's the people who drop in and out that make it feel like a little bit like Men in Black, but it's not. And then they also have like their creatures do things. Like I recall there's one that like eats hair, but then it ends up being a really good hairdresser and just gives people cool haircuts. So like the stakes end up being low. I know. It has like weird like fluffy like Edward Scissorhand like fingers, but
And then
uses them
after
to like
he
give
cuts
faux
hair, it's like, where's the hair go? Don't you worry about that. Don't you worry.
You don't need a
about
broom
it.
here.
You walk out looking great. Don't turn back.
Yeah, there is some interesting yeah, and like yeah, there's like a lot of the characters are the same. Like there's the redhead girl that's still mean to Lilo. And so you are just looking at pretty much the same crop of characters continuing onward. So these shows definitely feel like they wanted to not fully leave these storylines behind just yet and give the people what they want, not necessarily lots of plot or anything. Because part of me could see like a Emperor's New Groove more so series that was like heavier and more mature and about him like ruling the country and having like drama and like other things, but like it was definitely not going to go in that direction due to funding. But continue, Daniel.
Yeah, there are a couple things that I found rewatching these two series that I actually really, really dug. To your point about the characters, I forgot how just incredible of a character Stitch was. He's so delightful. It's insane. And also, what is the villain's name? Is he Captain Gontu or whatever? Gamma something? His first, like, at the end of his first scene where the hamster's, like, chewing him out, he turns away and he just says, "I hate my life." And it's just like, okay, I'm on board with this guy. I want to see him fail every week. This is amazing.
I watched that and was like, I never really recalled how much this guy just hated his job and was phoning in being a
so good.
But it was like really relatable.
Yeah, the characters in the Lilo and Stitch show are delightful. Also, the watercolor backgrounds are kind of really fun to look at.
Yeah, and they're like sneaking into fancy pools and like, they're just doing a lot of things where I'm like, yeah, as a fellow ragamuffin, I would do this as well. They're a little bit more, there's some of that writing on the Lilo and Stitch show. I was like, okay, there are some things here that are supposed to like fly over the target audience.
Now, Emperor's New School, I don't know if you remember this, Kyle, but my memory is that Emperor's New School is one of the first things we ever discussed as friends in middle school as something to do because we both liked one of the aspects that the show was built around, one of the mechanics told.
Right.
And we always meant to get around to watching this show or talking about this show, and we never did.
Yeah, we never did. Yeah,
well, here we are.
Disney Plus wasn't a thing at that time.
Disney Plus was not. It was much more difficult to schedule our parents driving us to hangouts around the show airing at Saturday night.
And one quick thing, like this is completely tangential.
Yes.
But it's loosely related. Just keep in mind, especially as a kid, it was actually very hard to one, you had to find these shows on cable, right? But number two, these are only 20 to 25 minute episodes, and they would have, especially on Disney Channel, they would have 3 or 4 commercial breaks.
Oh, at least 15 commercial breaks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So imagine like watching like 4 minutes of like Emperor's New School, and then it's like, here's your 10 minutes of commercials. Like,
buy some
Go-Gurt. That's a good point.
Yeah, and then they'd have like lunch break hours, stuff like that. I don't know. There was like shows within the show too.
That's right. Yeah,
there were. But anyways, but to your point, yes, the one thing that Emperor's New School always sold me on, which I thought was very original, especially as a kid, not having quite as much perspective on shows and just culture in general. I really appreciated that they would consistently break the fourth wall. They would have they have a ton of breaks where Kuzco just totally just steps out of the show and just looks me dead in the eyes and starts like drawing out his like game plan, what's going on, what he's thinking about, like. and really just kind of walks us through. And one interesting thing, when you compare that specific mechanic of the show to how the movie functioned, I don't recall that being something in the movie.
No, that was in the movie.
Was it in the movie?
Yeah, breaking the fourth wall.
Right. He stopped. So in the movie, he stopped the movie. Right. I think I
they do the
remember
like.
rewinding. But I
Yeah.
don't. Did he walk on screen and start drawing things with markers and whatnot?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
I stand corrected.
I do as well.
There was-
I don't remember
Exactly
that
that
being.
big.
Yeah, there was like a part where he was like, "Wait a minute, guys, don't feel sorry for this guy. This movie's about me." And he gets a marker and he scratches out the other guy in the image, like, "Focus
That's
on
right.
me."
He does do that. Yeah. Okay. I think seeing that in TV though was definitely was really fun too.
But does he
at our
do
age.
it in the movie? Is it just like a one-time thing, or does he do it multiple times throughout the movie?
I don't recall that. I also want to.
Because it could have been one of those things where it's
Yeah.
like, this worked, so let's just build the show off of this.
I mean, I
Yes.
think so.
It could. I think. Yeah, that would have probably been a big selling point for how to make the show fun.
Yeah.
I want to say that he does do something to break the fourth wall. It's all like coming back to me now. I want to say he does something to break the fourth wall within the first scene of the movie,
Yeah.
which would establish it as something that would come up later again.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it did, I don't know, just the show, that was the one thing I remember as a kid, though. I remember the show did that specific element very well.
Yeah, I agree. I went back to it, and I gotta say, I think we missed the boat. I don't think there's a reconciling. There's a lot of good shows to watch on Disney Plus. Emperor's New School is, I'm sure, a good show. But yeah, there's a lot of good shows on Disney Plus. I think we might have missed that boat.
Yeah.
I feel like I watched a few episodes and I was like, I remember the show, and I kind of got my fill, and then I was good. I think when you're more in that headspace of the target audience when you're younger, I could see why I like would binge it and be like, oh yes, I have to watch them if they were on like Toon Disney or something like that.
Yeah, we were like trying to go to Blockbuster and find sets to like binge the show.
It was hard.
It
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
And now it's there. Disney Plus, everybody.
Yeah, it was a black market.
It was a black
Couldn't
market
it?
for Emperor's New School.
I definitely had the same idea about Lilo and Stitch. Like, I loved the series Lilo and Stitch because it was like a discovery. It's like I liked the discovery of what the new experiments did. Like, oh, this
Yeah.
week is a lava and water one. This week is like kind of a slower week, so they'll have like one that just does a finding thing.
Yeah.
I will mention that like that show got me to go to DisneyChannel.com. I would say an atrocious amount. I
Really?
love-
There you go.
Playing DisneyChannel.com. Those I think they were Flash games or something where
Oh,
it
I
was
remember those.
where one was just like stacking sandwiches, and
Oh,
I would play that for hours.
Because you would have to make the tuna sandwich and then the peanut butter sandwich.
Really?
I remember that.
It was a little more like Tetris, where it was like, here's
Yeah.
a piece of ham falling, catch the ham on the plate with the bread, and then catch the cheese, catch more and more, get it as high as you can before toppling over, or like it reaching whatever point it reached to like get you to lose the game. Because for those of you who don't know, in Lilo and Stitch, one of the experiments loves making sandwiches.
Well, it's because
And
they
I
always
would-
pack their surf sandwiches too.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah,
I
like
did
in
not
the
know.
movie, they always bring sandwiches to the beach.
That is a useful experiment then. Yes, I remember playing that game for, I would say conservatively 2.5 hours.
Huh. I never played any of the Disney Channel ones, but I like want to know what you're talking about. I did play like Codename Kids Next Door ones on CartoonNetwork.com. But those sound awesome. The tuna one sounds fun. The Tetris, that's actually pretty sweet.
So, Monsters at Work. How many of us have watched this show?
I watched the first episode, and then I watched a couple more today.
I have
Very nice.
seen 1, 2, 3, and 5.
All right.
I've seen one episode.
I have seen none.
It's an interesting switch for the show.
That is very much not like me. It's usually like, this obscure show. Yeah, I've seen this twice.
I helped
You
write
know,
it.
to give you credit, it's not too obscure. So there's that. Though I feel like they didn't promote this a ton, or at least it didn't show up for me that much. I only knew about it from like following people who are voice actors on Instagram, or else I don't think I would have really noticed this show pop up. But yeah, Monsters at Work. It picks up at the transition between laughter and scaring as the energy source produced by Monsters Incorporated. I feel like this audience is more of a mixed bag, like it could be for adults or kids, somewhat like the movie. And it is definitely higher production quality, though I do feel like it's in the first couple episodes they're finding their footing. So yeah, I mean, and it does, I think it's a little different because they're trying to not have it be fully like the other movies in the series where it's mainly focusing on this character named Tyler Tuskman, who's just graduated from Monsters University at the top of his scare class, and he was recruited. But then now that they've shifted to laughter, he's kind of in this more like a behind the scenes role, and he's trying to figure out how to be a jokester, which is the new role for the company. So yeah, I guess like early thoughts to everyone else.
First off, Tuskman, I don't know. I think Daniel and I were chatting about this a little bit. It's kind of hard to put a finger on who exactly the target audience is for this show. Because Tuskman is like this 22-year-old, fresh out of college. And with Monsters University, that came out in 2013. And then Monsters, the original movie, that definitely, came out when we were the target audience. And then Monster University came out, kind of continued to be the target audience. But now with this show, Tyler, the main character, is like 22, but I feel like the target audience has almost outgrown him, which was interesting.
I think that's true.
And then what's also kind of interesting is that he is in, I don't know, it's like I'm a little indifferent with how they've kind of put his character together, because he graduated top of his class, he's coming into this job, and then all of a sudden they're putting him into this department seems like he's like almost overqualified for, as far as like his talents that he brings. And then they also make a ton of jokes about how he has a ton of college debt and they're paying him minimum wage. And it's just like, where exactly are we going with this?
I'm so happy I'm not the only one thinking this.
Like, literally,
No,
yeah.
you definitely look at it and go like, is it too soon?
Yeah. Like, and
Be like, your degree is no longer what the standard is.
yeah.
You're
exactly.
going to go into this other department that's not what you're good at.
Yeah. I don't know. That part's been interesting. But then, but then the other thing too is it is interesting to kind of watch almost like these two separate worlds where you've got, Mike and Sully, who were the original, and even, not just Mike and Sully, right? Like there's a lot of other characters they pull in from the original Monsters movie. And like you said, they do resume right after the movie, basically, while they're making that transition from scaring people to, making the kids laugh. But then at the same time, it's like they're introducing this brand new set of people also, like, Val, what's her name, right? That's her name, right? Val.
Yes,
yeah,
Val.
Yeah.
And then Tuskman. And it's interesting to see how they're trying to like intertwine those two worlds almost. It's like it almost kind of feels like maybe they're kind of like two separate spheres, and they almost have their own separate stories, but then they're trying to like intertwine things, right? Like Sully vouched for Tuskman in the first place out of college, which is why he got the job. So that part, I think you're right. It's like they're kind of finding their footing. I think especially in that aspect of like, hey, we have the original characters, but we want new people. But how in the world do we actually tie these two worlds in?
Yeah, you make a good point on like one way that it seems like they're trying to like hit both, and arguably we can chat about if we think they're doing that successfully or not.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like Mike and Sully are kind of like the elder millennials moving into management past that stage, and then the like younger millennials / Gen Zers are the ones like coming into this role as he does, and kind of being like a fish out of water in that situation. So it kind of seems like they're trying to stretch to be like, we could be everything for everyone, which, you know, I would say I tend to not like that as much. I like something that's really zoomed in, and it's either I love it or I don't. So I think that is like a criticism I have, is like they are kind of playing it safe in some ways, of like just trying to see like we can have both of these perspectives, and some of that is good. And I do enjoy when they focus more on Mike and Sully, and they have like the episode where they like the human baby's room is messed up, and so the Miffed crew has to like repair it, and while that's done, like Mike and Sully take care of the baby. And honestly, I like that episode because it's very much mimicking the movie. They're taking care of a human, but they take them to a baseball game where they get like heckled for bringing their kid there, and it's pretty funny. Like the Monsters Inc. universe is always really enjoyable, so I think ones where they really like tap into it and, you know, they're kind of in their element, I like it a lot. I think they had to do a lot of setting the stage of like, what is Miffed, like this department that he's in, and like what is more of the companies. And then they're starting to get more into the workplace situations, like when there's like somebody is at fault for like a power outage. I think that's episode 4, or it might be 5, and I have those mixed up. And they're kind of somebody sticking their neck out for them, and they kind of like have this camaraderie of like, no, it was my fault, no, it was my fault, and they're trying to make it so no, like nobody's getting cut for the when corporate comes to like do the analysis of like who was the one who made this grave error. And that was almost like really serious tone. So it's interesting kind of seeing how they're trying to figure out like how much this will be like kind of like the lighter comedies we've seen them done previously with the Emperor's New School and Lilo and Stitch, where it, you know, they're not really taking risks there. They're just kind of keeping it exactly how it was. And this one, I feel like they're taking some tweaks, maybe like arguably not enough, maybe sometimes too much. I think you kind of see that from episode to episode. But yeah, Wendy, what are your thoughts on the episode you watched?
I think it was pretty cool. I liked it. I would say that I totally agree with this idea that the writers are trying to show Mike and Sully as upper management, and that wasn't who they were before. And it really reminded me of South Park, because when South Park started, it was just about the kids. And then as the writers got older, they started writing more for Stan's dad. And like Stan's dad is sad and has a midlife crisis and starts selling weed. And he was like, yeah, that's really weird because that's not who we used to focus on. So it's almost kind of like the writers are trying to grow up along with Monsters Inc. And now it's like, you know, now they have a sad little, yeah, it's a little sad. The show's a little sad because, you know, they keep making fun of him for being a college boy. And yeah, so it's just kind of like a very dark humor, just animated by Pixar.
I know, and it feels like a mirror because I don't know about anyone else, but when I first started at work, it was just like everything was I was the millennial.
Yeah.
Or like the token whatever, and like it was just the like you're always on your phone, you're always on social media, and you're probably not smart. Like, I mean, no, it's like we hired you because you're smart, but also it was like you don't know anything and blah 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 blah, and everything is your generation's fault and blah.
I kind of like that though. There was moments in my life I was like, I wanted to be the baby and I want to keep being the baby. Like, don't expect more from me. I don't care about this job. Like, don't act like I should be gaining more skills every year. I'm just doing this to pay my rent, you know? It's like that kind of vibe.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's okay. Have low expectations.
And I feel like there's some, you know, nostalgia for like that MIF team where they're kind of like in the back being scrappy and like like they don't have to have all the responsibilities of the Mike and Sully like characters, and you do go like, as much as he's getting a lot of crap and like, not able to necessarily like pay off all his bills as quickly as possible, you also are kind of like, do we kind of miss that lack of responsibility and just like fun teamwork where no one was competing with each other, because there were no promotions. There was no there was nowhere to move up and everywhere to move up, because it was just like the department you're in is kind of like, so you gotta just like make it work. But yeah, I don't know. It does make me a little bit like nostalgic for being a recent grad, even though there's the parts where you're like, I don't miss that. But then there are the parts where it's like, it does bring you back to being like, when everyone was like in the trenches and like hated everything. But it also made it more like of a social time than it was as much of a work time. And I'm like, that part's nice.
Yeah, because then what's the alternative? Getting a promotion and then be like, hey, Clara, you remember last week we got drunk? We can't do that anymore, but you keep coming in drunk and I got to report you because I'm the manager now. Like, that's no fun. So,
Wow.
This is true.
Yeah.
When people are late or stuff, you're like, now I'm accountable for this?
Yeah, like I gotta write you up? Oh no.
What is that? What is that about? I'm supposed to be cool and relatable. Now not. Now you're like, oh, don't do that in front of that one.
It's like, no, can we all still hang out at Chili's? I just gotta write you up, but we can still hang out. And like, no.
Like, it's not the same. Yeah. So I don't know. Those seem to be kind of like the light moments of the show. Daniel, what is your take on the episodes that you viewed?
Yeah, fight me on this if you think differently.
Okay. Sure.
First, I want to know from Tracy and Kyle, who for sure watched the first episode. For anyone who did watch the first episode.
Yes.
So when they were reintroducing, before we even met any of the characters, when they were reintroducing Monsters, Inc. as a workplace, were you excited to be back?
Yes.
He's thinking.
But
I wasn't unexcited.
Okay.
Caveat, I did watch the movie directly prior to watching the show, which maybe could change things.
Yeah, I guess it was more so for me. I did not watch the movie prior to this. In fact, I don't think I had watched the movie in a decade and a half. So it was more like a feeling of rediscovery, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of my sort of experience. It was interesting because I felt like I was returning to a Pixar property that I had already returned to, perhaps with Monsters University. I don't know what it is, but as I was sort of coming back to the show, and I want to say this because I want to disclaimer the rest of my thoughts around if it is me in watching this opening sequence, but immediately as we went back into Monsters, Inc., I was kind of just like, wait a minute, I think I know the gist here. I think I know what I'm getting into. As we started to meet everybody, I started to have really mixed feelings about this show. I want to go back to Taylor. Taylor Tuskman is his name?
Yeah,
Tyler.
Tyler Tuskman. Tyler Tuskman.
You say it with such suspicion. Like, who is this? Is his name
This
really
Tyler Tuskman.
So the thing is, I want to know who he is, and I don't feel like I do yet. As Kyle mentioned, he was top of his class. He is at Monsters, Inc. for a position that no longer exists, for a department that has been shut down. And we don't really know much more about him, which is odd to me, not seeing more of... I get that it's a workplace thing, but as we kind of... Okay, let's see. As we get into sort of... He meets the facilities team, and he gets into the facilities team, right? It's interesting watching this and watching Tyler sort of become a part of this sort of, corporate family sort of department that could get laid off at any moment. Again, this is like things that I hate when it's brought up in storytelling because this is not part of the show. But this is like me projecting workplace experiences onto this and me projecting like... So Taylor gets in here, and immediately I felt like we weren't supposed to love the Mift crew. They're presented with a lot of flaws, and the first scene that we see of Tyler. The first scene that we see of Taylor outside of the
Tuskman works too.
Tuskman.
Tuskman works too.
We're going Tuskman. The first scene we see, he is spelt with an O at the end of the name, so it is Tylor. So it is just 28 years of seeing that name with an A somewhere in there.
It's
doing
just fueling your anger towards this character.
I don't know that I have anger. So the first scene that we see outside of, maybe I do. The first scene that we see of him outside the Mift crew is he is basically bad-mouthing the Mift crew to the upstairs laugh floor. It's really weird to get a character that is like, I don't see many protagonists that badmouth the rest of the main cast, but then we also don't know anything about them to separate them from the main cast. I also feel very strange that he's stuck in Mift because Mift is played as very sort of flawed characters. Like even Val is a little creepy in some ways. Though from what I understand, like the end of episode 3 is a lot of like, from her perspective, Tuskman's relationship with her was much more meaningful in college than it might have been to him based on a couple nice acts. But still, some of the sort of like how enthusiastic she is, or some of the sort of gags that they do about like how much she's stoked that he's on the team. At the same time, he's not there to work facilities. And they're kind of like a band of misfits working a fairly undervalued, obviously minimum wage position at this massive energy company. It doesn't seem like we're supposed to want him to stick around and basically like for this family to grow, because at that point Tuskman is like wasting his, I don't want to say potential in the workplace, but he's basically settling on this facilities team that he doesn't want to be a part of, and not going, like he wants to go after his laughter dreams, and maybe he gets to go up to the laugh floor, but then is everybody going to go up to the laugh floor? Is the facilities team going to have 6 new openings and the whole cast is going to be on the laugh floor at the end of the season? Are we supposed to want him to leave them? Are we supposed to like them if we want him to leave them? Are we supposed to get attached to him? Is he supposed to get attached to him and stick around and like not fight hard to get to the laugh floor? I feel like I'm watching this 22-year-old settle for a department that he didn't get hired in, and I don't know what to think. And I don't know what to think about him or the rest of the main cast.
I have thoughts on that.
Okay.
I think that what they're trying to do is sort of create a tension. So like you're going to start to get attached more to these Mift characters, and he's going to slowly like move towards the laugh floor, but there's going to be obstacles that get into the way of that, and they're going to string that out. And then he's, towards at some point going to have to make a choice of like, do I leave like my crew for my dream?
Yes.
Or,
yes, you do.
Do I, start trying? And, I think they'll also try to like have it be like, I want to say they're going to try to pitch this really like realistic scenario where he could become, move up within Mift and stay comfortable, or leave and go for something bigger, since they are kind of going with him as this like young adult, starting out and having to like pick the way of entry level, which is usually not exactly your favorite, but adjacent perhaps if you're lucky to something you actually enjoy. And so he's kind of going through it in that foot of the door way, and for lack of Monsters Inc. pun, and then
That's good.
It had to be said. And then through that he has to kind of build his chops, and he essentially learned the opposite of what he's doing, which I actually think is pretty creative, in the sense that many people who worked in media had to have a similar thing of where like certain parts of the industry went down and you had to like relearn your skill for digital in a very different way that you had than before. So I feel like there is some probably angst in the writers who are like, I got a degree in X, and then that became almost, not desolate, but you had to like revamp your skill set a lot in the workplace in order to stay relevant within your industry. And I think that's something they're trying to get at with him, is like he's having to figure out where he fits in the real world, and if he's going to stay comfortable behind the scenes with this kind of island of misfit employees, or if is he going to like start auditioning more to be a jokester and like do this like comedy school that they kind of start talking about as something they're going to do, because they do have to retrain everyone, because some of the people were like the Mike character where they were better at the laughter part always, and all the people who are more the traditional scarers are having to relearn their ways. And if you read into this as a metaphor too much, you would also think of it as like, are they just doing harassment training as a company? Like it can be looked at many ways. But I also think they're trying to do with the Val character. I think she's the one that's voiced by Mindy Kaling.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're trying to make her like Parks and Rec Leslie Knope type character. Like I think she's supposed to be the like, I love everyone, everyone's my friend, I remember everyone I meet because I'm just so nice, and like somewhat of an overachiever. And it's not supposed to come off as creepy or desperate, but I think you're also supposed to pick up on the fact that she's not supposed to have like great grasp of social cues.
Right. The security camera like photo on Tuskman's desk is the one example that I keep going back to. That leads me to a question though. Like from what you're saying, the series is inevitably perhaps getting to a point where Tuskman's going to have to make that choice. Are these characters strong enough to make that choice emotional when that moment gets there?
5 episodes in, that's a toughie.
That is this is like a 10 episode series, right? We're not done with it.
No, and they're still coming out. I think eventually it will be. Like I do enjoy, I think it's kind of, I can't tell if he's supposed to be a supervisor type level. That's the Henry Winkler character, the one that's kind of looks like a blue, somewhat like, I don't want to say like an elephant,
the one-eyed guy?
maybe a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah. I think he's supposed to be the supervisor.
Yeah. Perhaps he's like an aardvark. I don't know.
Yeah, it's an odd shape, but honestly, somewhat similar to our You See Your Vine mascot.
So we're thinking that. Okay. So we're thinking that it might surprise us, that we might not know that we were so attached to the characters based on if we give this series enough time in convincing us that they're emotionally worth sticking around to see if Tuskman makes choices in his life that will make him happy.
And really quick, I just wanted to coming out of that Leslie Knope Val kind of comparison. I agree. I feel like socially and behaviorally they kind of do have similar things going on. But do we feel like Mindy is as good as at her job? Oh, sorry, not Mindy. Do we feel Val is as good at her job as Leslie Knope?
I love Val. I only saw her in the one episode I watched, but she was going to do Tamale Tuesdays. And someone who works in the office, I would love it if people brought food every day. That's amazing.
I know. That's nice.
Yeah.
I will say I liked episode 5. I did not like episodes 1 and 2 because I think, like I said, I was trying to reject this show, perhaps. I liked episode 5 in a way where it surprised me. It had like a lot of dark humor. I'm not sure what the correct term for it is, but it was...
I mean, it was pretty dark. They were going to kill that guy.
They were going to kill that guy and dispose of the body. Yeah, and they like were starting to chop up like his all-seeing eyes and stuff like that. It was kind of it was pretty interesting. So perhaps maybe they do find their footing with Val, and there is that whole sort of arc in the 3rd episode. I don't know. Perhaps. Episodes 1 and 2, just I don't know. But then again, to go to the Parks and Rec thing, that show didn't find its stride until the end of the 2nd season. So perhaps this will. Though I will say one thing: this isn't about the main cast. I want to go back to Mike and Sully. Mike's interesting. leading a company that now has an opening for something he's very passionate about is going to be a big challenge to do well. But it is fun to watch him try and to see his flaws and stuff like that. What do you guys think about Sully? Because I'm sitting there and I'm like, my poor boy Sully. Once a protagonist, movies occur during the most important time in a protagonist's life. Sequels are tough. Prequels are common because you want to get to that point. Sequels are tough because it's like, where do you go now? What I'm seeing with Sully is it's really weird. You don't see this in movies. You don't see this in TV shows often. You see it in real life. Is like those defining moments pass, and then people just sort of exist and they go through life comfortably. And that's where Sully's at in this show. Mike wants things in every scene. Sully is just kind of hanging out and still getting paid. And it's really interesting because he's sort of like a character with zero agency within this show.
I kind of enjoyed that he's laid back and checked out. Like, I'm kind of like, is that maybe the goal? Like, should I one day be laid back and checked out? Kind of sounds great.
Okay.
And on a stressful day, you're like, this sounds cool. But then there's the dark flip side where you're like, are you unfulfilled? Whereas Mike has like all this ambition and passion for like new projects and new initiatives and all these things that to do with the company. And Sully's kind of just like, yeah, whatever. I just sign the checks and I leave. Like, like you see both sides of it as like, oh, these are how some people like go upwards in their career. Some people really like take a more like detached route and are able to just kind of like move up and move out type of thing. And then some people are really immersed in what they do and kind of can never turn it off. So I think that's part of what we're seeing budding. But you also are like, it's early on, so we're not sure if we're going to see like, is Sully going to become more involved in some area that he hasn't, kind of tapped into yet? Or is he going to start to have like a crisis?
Right. So
only time will tell.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be interested. Are you going to keep? Are people here going to continue watching this series through the first season?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's good enough to keep watching.
Okay.
That's for sure. On my end.
Sweet. Then we might. All right. Then okay. Then, all right. We might do a part 2. I don't know. My thing is I don't understand where this show's going. I don't know if this is a show about.
Oh yeah.
Like I don't know what the show's about yet. I don't know if the pacing is like it. If where I'm at is like matching up with the pacing of how this show's moving, to sort of like be patient with not really understanding what I'm watching or where any of this will end up, and what it will say. And it is very unnerving for me watching this show, not knowing any of that and not getting any clues to any of that I can tell anyways. It's really weird.
And yeah.
Is it really so terrible if the new college grads' dreams don't come true?
It's not. No, it is not. But my only thing is that he is, as of where I've seen, he's slowly coming around to his team.
Yeah.
But ultimately, and this is again, these are things that I am like I feel very strongly about not letting outside sort of like life or just any sort of like outside influences really like define how to think about stories. And in this one, this is why I'm just like, I don't know if this is me. I am letting that happen. I am letting this whole thing of like, well, maybe he does come around to these people, but then maybe, the first year of running, an energy company based on a whole new model is tough, and Mike has to make layoffs, or it's this kind of tough thing where it's like, there are so many ways that these people like wouldn't be around all the time. And right now we're maybe he is slowly coming around to this team, but I don't know if it's the pacing or what, or if I'm not coming around to them yet, or if I'm not allowing myself to come around to them yet. Like I said, like I sit down, I watch this, and I am very much rejecting it. But yeah, I just
getting a visceral reaction, which I mean, on one hand, sign of a good show.
It is a sign of a good show.
bad
perhaps.
reaction or a good reaction, but it is regardless a strong reaction.
It's a strong, yeah, it is a strong reaction. But again, the reason that I'm sort of conflicted in it in this way is because perhaps the pacing. Like I said, but by the end of the first 2 episodes, I hadn't come around to anyone yet. I don't feel like Tuskman learned anything yet. And I don't know if that's what I wanted. Like I said, I don't like you said, it is somewhat of a mirror. And obviously it's a more uncomfortable mirror, perhaps. Though I would argue Agretzko is a pretty uncomfortable mirror too. And
it is, but you root for her a little bit more.
And that
because she is more of a... Oh, sorry.
No, that one also has like more personal agency, perhaps. This one's a lot of things outside of the character's controls, whereas Agretzko is very much puts all of the decisions into each character's hands, and you relate to them making the wrong decisions because they're only not human. Whereas these monsters are very much products currently of their system. And I'm just not sure what it has to say about that. And I don't have any clues yet, and I don't know that I've come around to these characters yet. But I'm interested. I mean, we have like 5 episodes left in the season, right, or something? I'm not sure how long the season goes.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go.
I was just thinking that, I think the pacing could be an issue, but it does remind me of Ben Feldman, the voice actor for Tustin's the other show, Superstore.
On Superstore?
Yeah, and Superstore is the same thing. It's a crappy job, and they say it all the time, and they're asking each other, why are you still here? It's a bad retail job, and every season it's another example of how corporate hates them, and there's episodes where they bring in someone to tell them to not unionize, and they're cutting their hours and their health benefits, and yet every season they're back, and it's just the characters' lives. Trying to make it through another day or week.
I need to watch Superstore. I'm very glad. My last week's toast was about retail. I obviously have an affinity for that workplace. Maybe I would like their struggles more.
Superstore is incredible.
Yeah,
I love that show.
I do have to add
and he does actually play. Oh, go Kyle.
No, go. I was just gonna have to say I do have to add a plug though. He does play a very happy lawyer in Silicon Valley with his own private practice.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a great actor. But yeah, he plays kind of a similar-ish role on Superstore because he's supposed to be someone who's kind of like not finished law school-ish and kind of doesn't know what he wants to do and is very overqualified to be working at the Walmart-esque business. But he does stick around because the camaraderie is great. And you're kind of looking at this Tyler Tuskman character who is similarly somewhat overqualified, but yet also kind of missing the key ingredient to take him up to like his full potential. And you are kind of looking, and he seems also just like maybe just a smidge douchey, which I'd say on Superstore he's not so much, but maybe airs on the pretentious side, like is always into like hipster stuff. But like I think in this show you do kind of see him being like when he doesn't remember the nerdy girl and kind of like, you know, sort of like has a certain swagger about him. You are kind of seeing him as not as idealistic as, say, the Agretzko character, where you can tell like she's always working hard. And it's kind of like, you know, she's dealing with a lot of like workplace issues that happen at a lot of businesses. And then this one is interesting because the business is restructuring. So like you said, there's a lot of space for them to just have absolute chaos all the time. And I think a lot of people have gone through a company restructuring, which is an interesting sense because of the time we are in now. Like it does seem like a relatable concept for many people. Oh, yeah. And yeah, like it could go in a really dark way. It could go in, you know, he kind of like learns a new skill in a very idealistic way. So it's like, I agree with you where you're not really sure what directions he's going. Like, is he going to be somewhat of this like underdog getting his way, or are we going to see him somewhat unravel, or are we going to see him settle? Like there's kind of the low, medium, high options on the positivity spectrum on like where he ends up. which are a bit more realistic than probably a lot of these other shows they've made. And also, Monsters Inc. is usually not supposed to be too dark, but this one seems like it's a little bit, they're tapping into the workplace reality a bit more than they had in the previous ones. Though, I mean, the movie is like the boss is super corrupt and they're the whistleblowers. Like, it's kind of how that ends. And, they'd never really had to clean up the mess of doing that until it was the series that they're doing right now. So that part is kind of interesting of like, it does feel like a bunch of people are like, hey, it's not like realistic that they wouldn't have to go through a bunch of stuff during this change. They're like, you're right. That's its own show. So we'll have to see. We'll have to do an update after this first season keeps airing and see if we still feel so like joyful or unenthusiastic about how they've gone about this one.
I'm interested. Brandon, are you interested in watching this show after this discussion?
Honestly, not really. I never really. Okay, it's not like you guys didn't do a great job selling it, but I'll be honest. I was watching it off the corner of my eye at 2x speed with the volume off as we were going, just so I could like get a sense of it. And I'm not really interested. I'm not really interested.
Best viewing experience. I'm gonna go.
Well, at 2x speed, so might be talking normal speed.
Yeah.
So, I heard none of the lines, and I didn't get any of the physical comedy, but well, let's start with, like, I never was really attached to Monsters, Inc. as a Pixar film. It wasn't really the one that resonated with me. I was very much more of a Finding Nemo, Toy Story. Monsters, Inc. wasn't the one for me, so when
we shut up Bug's Life? Sorry.
Oh, I love Bug's Life. I don't know why, but it lives in my heart, in a special room in my heart that I love.
There's a wrong answer to that question because Kyle and I had a joint Bug's Life themed birthday party.
What?
When we were little.
We did. Yep.
We did.
I'm sorry to hijack that, but I'm glad the Bug's Life was included.
I can always talk about Bug's Life.
I think there was like a Bug's Life cake. Yeah, and we had like
pinata? There has to be a pinata.
I don't know if there was a pinata or not. I actually don't know if there was. There was many a handcrafted decoration, but I can't recall if there was a pinata or not. It does feel like an opportunity.
We just hit real bugs instead.
Your kids, you're some ant killers in a while.
Please spray the pesticides. Happy birthday to you.
It was cheaper that way.
Yeah. So when you asked if you felt like a joy about returning to Monsters Inc., I really didn't.
Yeah. Perhaps that's.
Yeah. To be fair, I do have a slight curiosity to see where Tyler,
but it's spelled with an O, so there should be an A somewhere. But it's Tuskman.
Okay, where Tuskman ends up at the end of the series, because in my head, I don't want to see him succeed, and become a jokester, because he was already a top level scarer, and it's like, you can't have it all, buddy.
I don't think he will, though.
That's just what I would like him to find his place in the world, sure, but you can't have it both ways.
Well, I could see.
I'm kind of with you on that.
After saying that, I don't see him becoming a jokester.
Yeah, it doesn't set him up to be one.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I think you're right. I think they're trying to have it be he's gonna find his place, whether it's with like Mift or something else, but he's gonna kind of find his legs at this company, or maybe not. Maybe he quits.
Just sack the whole cast. We got a new. That'd be crazy. Monsters something after Monsters Superstore. Who knows? We'll see.
He freelances instead.
That'd be a
I
very
quit,
exciting
but
show.
I'm gonna consult.
He has a little pet
instead.
human, and yeah, just
He might make a competing company where they go back to scaring.
Oh.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh. Hey.
Takes the intel and goes somewhere else. I mean, there's a lot of directions it could go. So I'm open to the opportunity, but I very much hear the skepticism a little bit. Like, I think we'll have to see what direction they take, and then we'll have some fully formed opinions on this show. But is there any other thoughts we have on Disney movies turned TV shows for tonight?
I will say, I also sampled Timon and Pumbaa, Lion King
Oh,
series that took place after the movie aired in 1995. It was well made. It was also so 20th century it kind of hurt. It was like hanging out with my grandparents for too long on in a summer and needing to ask, where are my friends? I was not, I don't know. It's a good show, and it's fun to have Nathan Lane and everybody back, but it's a little dated. And also, Disney Plus didn't seem to have the Aladdin show, which was kind of a staple of old Disney cartoons, and I'm not sure where that was. I remember it having some weight to it, but I'm not sure how to watch
and
that
there's
now.
it does seem like they're missing a few of them, and you kind of wonder why. With Aladdin, I'm like, something in the show like objectionable? Like, did they do something that we don't remember? Like, that's the only reason I would think they wouldn't put certain things on Disney Plus, because I know like the movie that what's it called? It's called Song of the South, where Zippity Doodah's from, is highly offensive, and thus not on Disney Plus.
Right. I mean, even Timon and Pumbaa had a disclaimer before the first episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, these are some 90s
Timon and
cartoons.
Pumbaa in 1995.
Like, you know.
Yeah. That's exactly what. Yeah, it smelled of.
It's gonna be rough,
like,
guys.
Yeah, the tobacco pipe in the garage, like that's exactly what it's just like watching Timon and Pumbaa.
Has the analogy of like, it's like going to your grandparents' house. Jokes and all.
That's all I got.
Yeah, no, they're a good time, and it's interesting to see them still use this model. Definitely, though, based on just like the reactions to Monsters Inc., positive and negative, they've definitely amped it up a little bit, because I didn't feel super strongly about Lilo and Stitch or Emperor's New School. Like, I didn't feel bad about it. I enjoyed them, but I wasn't like, oh, like I didn't have a strong regard for it. Where I would say about Jackie Chan Adventures, I did love that show. So
I felt all the feels at the end of that first season finale on Jackie Chan Adventures, but yeah, I'm not sure that either of those series they were just fun, simple Saturday morning series.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think it was also like they're giving more money. They're taking every little cash cow project and they're putting more money in it, versus before you had this very cheap show and half the cast, the original cast, doesn't exist anymore because they can't afford them. And now you have the original cast coming back just for a little miniseries.
Yeah, no, I did watch those other series and go like, you guys must have just like, and it's a weird thing to watch a show and think about this as an adult, but you just saw it as like a revenue cow, because you're like, oh, this is really cheap to make. You didn't even need the whole cast if you didn't want to, because it's animated and someone else can probably do it justice. Though, interestingly enough, some of them, like Lilo and Stitch, had a lot of the original people. So I was like,
it did.
But and it just kind of like pushed it onwards. Like, was I holding my little Stitch plushie while I watched the Lilo and Stitch series originally? Yeah, of course I was. Like, I was just like, how many different ways can I give you some cash?
Exactly.
So it was pretty strategic in that regard. So yeah, I think definitely a different story with the Monsters Inc. and it being like Pixar, and probably just like production must be a much different story than the quick and dirty like animated Saturday in the morning-esque cartoons. So yeah, the fact that we're like, where is he gonna go? Where like in the other shows we're like, we know where they're going. They're going home. And then they'll do this again tomorrow.
Good point.
So it'll be cool to see. But all right, I think we can call it a PTPT wrap, and we kind of did post-show and the pre-show. So as the stream is not on for anyone else to join the after party has been here the whole time.
It's true. It's true.
It's been a party all night long, from tech to tech solution. So on that note, good evening, everyone, and we will catch you guys next Monday.
That's it for Primetime Party Time. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us to our guest stars. We had Kyle on tonight. We had JustTheFax, Wendy, and BMAC, Brandon, to Primetime regulars on tonight. And as well, this show could not have been made without the following amazing people. We're talking our artwork was done by Fen. Find her at FenLatte on Instagram. Happy birthday. Our theme song was done by J-Wright. Find him at jwrightmusic.com. Our website, with thanks to Coke. Our production manager is BMAC. And you can find episodes of Primetime Party Time on Apple, Spotify, wherever you like to listen to your podcast. If you want to rant, roast, and or rave with us, you can hit us up by sending us an email at info@ptptshow.com via our voicemail or chat box on the ptptshow.com homepage. That's all we got tonight. The fade is coming up.
Woo, Daniel, nailing that exit.
Honestly, yeah.
Episode 30. 30 weeks practice. Seriously, thanks everyone for hopping on tonight. Y'all were great.
Yes.
Really great points. Really good discussion. It's really fun having everybody
I
on.
think this was a fun episode. We'll have to do this format again on purpose.
On purpose.
It was a good time.
Well
All right.
said.
Good night, everyone.